You, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to present the #1 selling book in America, Free to Choose. It's #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, and I ought to know. And it is written by the Nobel laureate, a man who's will never be accused of making economics confusing. A man who has a reputation for not only saying what he thinks, but writing what he thinks as well, as he has done in this most important book titled Free to Choose. Please welcome the Nobel laureate in economics, Milton Friedman. Right there. Here he comes again, Milton Friedman, and boy, does he make an entrance now, because this is a blockbuster book, Free to Choose, which, not surprisingly, features a very attractive, flattering, professorial picture of our guest on the front. We feminists can only wonder we can only wonder how they would respond to this. The fact that the book is co-authored by Professor Friedman's wife, Rose, and to what location do you suppose she has been relegated?
You've got that wrong. Don't you know that the best always comes last?
Okay. All right, let's go over this now.
And you have to admit that she's prettier.
You certainly do have to admit that. It's not difficult to admit that at all. As a matter of fact, you do seem to have it all, Professor Friedman. If you just take a personal aside here for some, you're well married. You're married for what?
41 years.
41 years with the same woman.
Same woman, of course. We met down here at the University of Chicago in my first graduate course in economics.
She was a student?
She was a student, too. We were fellow students.
Oh, I see. So you never did presume to teach her, then?
Oh, no. This is when I was first starting.
That's probably why you've been married 41 years. And you also enjoy the prestige of the Nobel Prize. You are the counselor to presidents and presidential candidates. It's really a wonderful spot to be. And this is, you know, this is the last thing your mother would expect my son, the economist, to have become, a celebrity.
You are absolutely right. Unfortunately, she died many years ago. But you know, I want to put one salt note in that. People often fail to distinguish between giving advice and having it taken.
Mm-hmm. And
I've given advice to many presidential aspirants. It hasn't always been taken. In fact, most of the time it hasn't been.
I think we can assume that it's certainly not being taken now.
Well, I haven't given any advice to President Carter.
But none has been solicited, I think.
None has been solicited. But that really doesn't matter, because I publish my views in Newsweek and other areas. Anybody who wants to know my opinions or my views has them readily available. Nobody has to call me on the telephone to find out.
Yeah.
The only time I talked to President Carter was in the interim between his election and his inauguration, when there was an absolutely hilarious incident. He tried to call me to congratulate me on the Nobel Award, and he told his secretary to get Milton Friedman. Well, it so happened there was a speechwriter in Jerry Ford's White House called Milton Friedman. This is in the interim after Jerry Ford has been turned out. And all of a sudden the telephone rings and Milton Friedman in the White House hears President-elect Carter is on the phone and he thinks Santa Claus is coming.
Sure, he's going to. This will be the unprecedented act of being asked to come on another administration.
Wow. But it turned out he was really trying to get me, and he finally got me up in Vermont where we were at the time.
Let me see if I can express in very imprecise terms and very briefly what has the core of your statement here, a personal statement. We have too much government. We are not allowing the free enterprise system to work as your most favored historical figure, Adam Smith, suggested it would work if we just let things alone. We have too much government intervention. It is interrupting the, not only the wonderful work that the invisible hand does if we leave it alone, but it's also depriving people of personal liberties.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's a very good summary.
Fill in the blanks for me.
No, that's a very good summary. There is a very important role for government to play, but there's such a thing as too much of a good thing. And government has been growing beyond bounds. Right now, to take the simplest measure, the government spending at federal, state, and local levels amounts to over 40% of the income of the people of the country. If you go around and ask people, are you getting your money's worth for that 40% of your income which is being spent on your behalf, supposedly, by government, there are very few people who will say yes. And they are right. We're not getting our money's worth. Much of it is, it's not merely that it's being wasted. It's that it's being wasted in a very particular sense. You're spending money to do opposite things. Here at one place, we're spending our money to try to propagandize us not to smoke. In another place, we're spending our money to subsidize the growing of tobacco. Now, what sense does it make to spend two streams of money like that? And you can go over and over again and find exactly the same thing. The government is too big. It's too intrusive. It restricts what we can do. It's becoming our master instead of our servant, and we've got to react against it and cut it down to size.
All right, let's share with the people at home just one of the statements of Adam Smith that you refer to in your book, which, of course, when I want it, I'm not going to be able to... oh, it's on page 2. All right, thank you. All right, I've excerpted from your book, as you have from Adam Smith, so we can both, with apologies to Adam Smith, to whom, from whom permission was not granted for this, but here is what...
Phil's pretty good, but he doesn't communicate with the next world.
All right. By pursuing his own interest, that is to say, his meaning the person engaged in free enterprise, the person who functions within the capitalist free enterprise system, Adam Smith says, he frequently promotes that of the society more effectively than when he really intends to promote it. Smith says, I have never known much good done by those who affected to trade for the public good, meaning spare me from the do-gooders. Spare me from the people who intend to do good. Smith is saying if you honestly seek your own self-interest within the free enterprise system, society will be the beneficiary.
That's right.
That's a hard thing to...
But take the last part of that. I've never known
see that again, Ronnie.
I've never known much good done. No, I don't have to say it. I've never known much good done by those who affected to trade for... Affected. Note he doesn't say did trade. Affected to trade for the public good. Now that word affected is a very important point, because you must realize that people don't always express their real interests or their real values. They say what they think will be attractive to the public at large. Let me give you a very simple example right now. General Motors, one of our major corporations, has come out against the deregulation of the trucking industry. The trucking industry today is grossly overregulated. It never should have been regulated at all. We never should have brought it under the Interstate Commerce Commission. It was brought under the Interstate Commerce Commission not to protect the consumer, but to protect the railroads at the time from the competition of trucks when they were first introduced into the 20s. Right now, there's a move underway to deregulate trucking the way airlines have been deregulated. There is nobody doubts that the deregulation of airlines was a very good thing for everybody. The deregulation of trucking would be an equally good thing. There are literally billions of dollars being wasted because of the monopoly in trucking.
You're talking about fees when you talk about deregulation. I assume you would still have some monitor on weight. And can the trucking industry benefit by using highways that I am paying for and may not be using the merchandise?
They don't now. You now have a gasoline tax which covers the costs of the highways. It is appropriate to charge for the use of the highways, of course. They ought not to get a subsidy. I am opposed to subsidies, and I'm opposed to the opposite of the excess taxes. But they do